bring out some of the things you were talking about and throw them on the board here, okay? 20 seconds on the clock? No, never mind. Okay. What is Jesus telling us about discipleship?
It's hard.
It's hard, okay? Hard. And that brings us down to this one. Okay, what else?
Anyone could do it. The priest didn't stop, but someone else did.
Anyone can do it, is what you said, right? Okay. Okay, what else?
It involves action.
It involves action. Okay. Anything else?
Sacrifice time and money.
Sacrifice. Time and money. Anything else? All right. That's what Jesus is telling us about discipleship. What is Jesus asking us to do?
To step outside of our comfort zone.
To step outside. Anything else?
I would say to prioritize helping others that are maybe not as close to you as your family. Prioritize helping.
Let's throw the word close over here. Prioritize. Prioritize helping, even those that may not be close to you. Okay. All right. What else?
Love others as we love ourselves.
Okay.
First man. Or something, I believe.
Love others like ourselves. All right. Anything else? Okay. Moving on to the third question. What would this look like today? What would it look like anyone, well, let me say a couple of things about anyone can do it, because you brought up the idea that the priest didn't, the Levite didn't, who was another religious official, and yet a Samaritan who was a person that was not well liked by the Jewish people. And Jewish was telling this to a Jewish lawyer, so it was like to make his point, that the priest and the Levite saw this person left for dead, and they walked on the other side. Right? Now, speaking as a priest, there might have been some reasons why the priest and the Levite didn't want to go near the person that was left for dead. There could have been some purity laws that if they went and helped, because he was probably a bloody mess, because there was wine and oil that the Samaritan used to bandage him up, that they might have been impure, and they didn't want to be impure, and they felt that that was a way to honor God, was by keeping pure. Or religious reasons aside, it was very possible that the robbers were still hanging around, and that the robbers were watching, and if anybody, regardless of who you are, went to help, they would have taken you out too, and go away with more. So there were some possibly religious reasons, and possibly even more so practical reasons, why the priest and the Levite went on the other side. But the Samaritan, who was not even Jewish, came near to him. That's the way Luke says it. Came near to him. So the Samaritan was being the neighbor. So that the discipleship in this particular parable means being neighbor. And being neighbor means being near. For the German word that neighbor comes from means one who is nearby, one who is near, okay? So in this particular case, you're my neighbor because I'm near to you, but you back there, we're in the same room, but we're not neighbors, sorry, you're just not near, okay? So being neighbor means being near. Okay, we'll leave it there for now. Let us continue. What would this look like today? Based on what you said, based on what hasn't been said yet, based on what I just said, what would being a disciple look like today? Like here and now? What would it look like?
Almost kind of putting your antennas up, looking for need.
Putting what?
Your antennas up to look for
Antennas?
need. Antennas.
Antennas up, I got you. Antennas. Okay.
Oh my
Yes.
Showing kindness, empathy.
Kindness,
thinking about, someone else's situation.
kindness, empathy for others. Okay. What else would it look like?
Taking a chance on people.
Risk? What else?
Trust that that person is actually in need.
Trust? Yes?
Stuff like feeding the hungry and clothing, giving clothing to the poor.
Feeding and clothing?
GoFundMe's.
GoFundMe's.
Financial.
Yeah.
Lots of people asking. Lots of people in.
Yeah. How many times you hear about that? Yeah. Anything else?
Giving our time.
Giving time. Anything else? Okay. So then, why would all of this be hard? What would it involve? What would be hard about doing this? Because it's easy to say all of this, right? It's easy to acknowledge all of these things, but to actually do it, it's hard. Why would it be hard?
I thought the group had a really good point that what's different nowadays maybe is our jurisdiction, or is it some other agency that's supposed to do this? Am I overstepping somehow?
Ah,
Those are
okay.
some-
Unions, as it were.
Well, no, but you have to
I know
right or
what
wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use your word. Agency. Question mark. Yes,
It'd be hard because as a parent, you may be exposing your family to risk.
okay. Okay, so, that would, be, chance. Okay. Anything else?
It seems that everybody's always in a rush and on a schedule, and so it does take time to stop and intervene.
So, giving one's time, and then somebody else said giving time someplace, is there enough time? And so rush and busyness.
There's some liability in helping others too.
Hmm?
I think people are worried about liability.
Liability and,
There are consequences of helping.
anything else?
I think it's hard because we're being called to help people we don't like.
Helping, what's another way of saying people we don't like? Helping strangers. Would that be accurate? No.
Undesirable.
Helping undesirables. I was looking
Yes,
for one
that's a
word.
good one.
I was looking for one word.
Undesirable is good.
That's different.
Ew, you're a Yankee fan? I'm not helping you if you need it.
Helping undesirables. Yes.
That's going to be the same as crossing social boundaries.
Okay. Boundaries. Okay. Okay. Would it be safe to say that a lot of what you put in very particular words could be summarized as sacrifice? Is that safe to say? Especially in giving of one's time? Especially in taking a risk, taking the chances. So I'm gonna write that here. Okay. So, I'm gonna go back up to the top here. Jesus is talking about discipleship means being a neighbor. And being a neighbor means being near. And being near can go two ways. Being near can be just finding the situation you find yourself in at any moment in the day. So like right now, I'm near to you. Later on, I'll be near to Father Joe. Tomorrow, I'll be near people who I'll be shaking hands with at the door as we go out of church. All of those people would be people that would be near to me and would be opportunities for me to be a disciple to them or act as a disciple to them. On the other hand, it might also require becoming near to somebody, like the priest and the Levite who went on the other side and the Samaritan who drew near. So that if I knew that there was a need on the back table, that it might be an invitation for me to go near to them and to help out them, or someone coming near to me. It also means that God, what Jesus is trying to tell us about God, is that God is always our neighbor. that God is always near to us. God always, well, because God is eternal, God doesn't have to worry about the rushing and busyness. It all kind of happens at the same time with God. But that God involves himself in our time. God involves himself in our own busyness, in our own rushing. God would be there with us when we take risks. God has a way, if we're kind of doing what we're supposed to be doing, God has a way of allowing the consequences to play out for the good, even though it might not be so obvious right at hand. So that God is always near to us. Whether we choose to be near to God or not, God always is near to us. So with that said, I'm going to talk about being a disciple and living as disciples in a family in the light of being neighbor, being near, which will involve the two ways I was talking about nearness. In the family, our children are the nearest to us. And so they are our neighbors, and we are their neighbors. So there is just a built-in nearness within our family unit. That if we can nurture, we can then be able to open ourselves up to others that can be near to us. And I'll show you what that means as I go along. But what I would like to do is to introduce to you a couple of ways of shaping our discipleship. Shaping our everyday in a way to follow Jesus, involving God being near to us, our being near to children, and then eventually maybe others being near to all of us. There are, I'm just naming 4, there are definitely others, ways that we have habits, that we do things in our families that we already do. And a lot of them involve risk. A lot of them involve trust. A lot of them involve time. And the way sometimes time is played out is through patience and sacrifice. So we are doing a lot of things already as disciples. So again, good for you. But I would like to suggest ways of doing what we're already doing as disciples, shaping them a little bit more so that maybe we could be more effective without necessarily hitting a scripture course or going to some kind of course on family dynamics or anything like that. So what shapes our everyday basically are our hearts. Our hearts kind of lead us and helps us to decide whether we should draw near or go on the other side. All our habits, those patterns of doing things, the way we shape what we do, shape our hearts. And our hearts shape our attitudes and direct us on what way to follow. So, I'm going to ask you to consider some ways of tweaking some of these things that we are already doing so that we can shape them to shape our hearts, our children's hearts, more to follow Jesus. So the first one I would like to start with is the first thing we do every single day, and that is getting up in the morning. I don't know about you, but lots of people, the alarm goes off, and they either hit the snooze for another 10 or 9, sometimes the snooze buttons are like 9 minutes, or they just lay in bed. And the reason probably why this happens is because of a little bit of dread. Not like a whole lot of dread, just a little bit of dread of facing the day. There is some kind of challenge or something out there that we're just not quite ready to face. And we want to see if we can delay it as long as we can. So I would like to suggest, and that's very real, and it's the way the brain works. I would like to suggest 2 alternatives. The ideal alternative, and the way I do it. The ideal alternative, it is said, that when the alarm goes off, we get out of bed immediately. Turn off the alarm and get out of bed. And if we do that every day, over time, it begins to shape our hearts to tell us that those things that we are dreading when we first wake up aren't really all that bad, and that we really can take them on. Rather than reinforcing the fact like, oh, this isn't going to be good. So to get out of bed as soon as the alarm sounds, and then do something. And the something that I would suggest doing would be, rather than checking the, oh my goodness, rather than checking the phone to see what happened overnight, or who sent us a message after 9 o'clock last night, or again to kind of revisit our schedule for the day, to put something before that. I'm not saying don't do that, but to put something before that so that it can shape everything else. And that would be to go sit in a chair, kneel by your bed, and say just a little prayer. And by saying just a little prayer, it could be the Our Father, it could be a little one-sentence something that you make up, or some other little prayer, to say a prayer that it then starts to shape the rest of the day. What I've been trying to do is to get up out of bed as soon as the alarm rings, but that's really hard. Now, I don't hit the snooze, but I'll stay in bed for a little bit. But when it's time to move, but I don't touch the phone or anything either. And what I do is I found this prayer that I, made, put it in plastic and everything, because I'm not a parent, so I had a little extra time. But if you just write it down on a piece of paper, or even find a prayer card with the prayer on it. And so this is the prayer that I say before I do anything else. God, unto whom all hearts are open, unto whom all wills do speak, from whom no secret thing is hidden, I beseech thee so to cleanse the purpose of my heart with the unutterable gift of thy grace, that I may perfectly love thee and worthily praise thee. Now, it's a little bit wonky because this is an old prayer. It's one of the first prayers written in English, and it's found in the book of the Cloud of Unknowing. That doesn't matter. I'm just wonky about this stuff, so that's why I picked this prayer. But it could be as simple as the Our Father, or it could be as simple of just, asking God to pray. Just to ask God that you'll do a good job today. That's one thing. Perhaps that's possible. That would be good for you. And if you could do it as spouses, that might help one another do it, right? Aside from that, what this does is placing God first thing in the morning. What this does is opening us up to the real light. Oh, and by the way, the next thing to do when you wake up is expose yourself to the sun. Once you get out of bed, once you say your prayer, expose yourself to some sunlight. I know that's kind of hard this time of year, but that sunlight does stuff to your nervous system that just wakes you up. And placing God in your life before the phone or before anything else that may happen that day. It shapes us. And over time, notice how that might change how you do things or your attitude toward things. Another possible thing that you could do is with the whole family, before the first person leaves the house, to gather everybody together in like a little circle. It could be in the bathroom, it could be in a bedroom, it could be by the front door, it could be wherever. And say a prayer together as we are like going off into the world for the day. Now, this is a particular example of a prayer that someone would say. Notice how simple it is. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, thank you for this day. Bless us as we work, study, and play. Be with us in all we do. May we bring honor to you. Isn't that nice? It focuses everything. And if you do it every day, it shapes the everyday. And over time, opens us up more to the ways of God and the ways we can live. So that's a couple of things right there. By the way, I'm going to be giving you a lot of examples. I'm not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination you do them all. I'm just throwing these out there for your consideration. If one of them sits with you well, try it. Especially if it's something you can try with your family, because this is the beginning of Lent. So you have a built-in reason why you can try something new. Because you're always going to get, why do we got to do that for? And you could say, it's because it's Lent, and in Lent we try something new to be closer to God. And this is what we're going to do this Lent. But you don't want to do all of these things, just one. So there's a couple of ideas I told you right there. How about having a meal together? Having a meal together is what builds relationships. Having a meal together reinforces who is near and who we can be near to. And it's being reinforced by stories that we can tell, conversations that we have, and in the relationships that take place around a table with a shared meal. One of the things to make this shared meal stand out as extra important might be to, and this is like a real good one, is to put a candle right in the middle of the table and light it. and light it, and then maybe as the candle's being lit, everybody can say, Christ is the light. And so it's a way of acknowledging that Christ is near to us. And that it's really cool because what young person does not love fire? And I must confess that when I was young, and when we had the Advent wreath during Advent time, that I made many attempts to try to blow the candle out, but make it look like an accident. So, you know, it would be like, please pass the potatoes, and hopefully I can pop the candle out. Or if I can pass something without making it fall out of the bowl and create a draft that would blow out the candle. I tried, but so that's something to expect. But it might be fun. It might be humorous, even though it might also make you roll your eyes a little bit. So aside from lighting a candle, to have some kind of rules for conversation so that everybody has a chance to say something. There is a game, well, it's game-like, it's actually not, but it's game-like. It's called Pass the Pepper. And so you get like a pepper shaker, or mill or whatever, and whoever holds the pepper shaker gets to talk about anything they want to talk about, and everybody else gets to listen. Then they pass the pepper, and then they have to now listen, and the next person gets to talk about anything they want to talk about. And you could even shape it a little bit more, because that's taking a risk, isn't it? You could maybe have a set of questions that are very specific. You know, name one good thing that happened today. Maybe in a way that they could tell a story. Pass the pepper. And then each person answers it in a story. So it's just doing something in the midst of what you're already doing, right? So it's not like an added something, unless you don't like pepper. Another thing that is possible with meals, and this would open up nearness to like beyond what's near, is by, on a regular basis, have a guest over for dinner. And have that guest participate in everything that you do to get dinner ready. Have them help with the cooking. Have them help with the cleaning. Have them pass the pepper with everybody else. This teaches our young people, and maybe us as well, that we can bring people near to us. And that this is not a time for entertaining, okay? Because when you entertain a guest, you want to bring out the best china, you want to clean the house, you want to get everything in order, and you're like hoping the kids will behave. All that's out the door. We're not entertaining, we're showing hospitality. So we're opening ourselves up to who we are to another person, and allowing the other person to give of who they are to us as a family. Again, pretty risky. But I'm not just saying invite any old person. I'm not saying invite someone who's left for dead at the side of the road. I'm just saying, you know, you would be the vetters, right? You can determine who that guest would be. So those are a couple of other ideas. How about screens? They're around everywhere, right? I got a screen right here. Off right now. Oh my God. Screens are like really important. And I think that they're really good. But screens are also really powerful, because screens are always feeding us images. And those images shape our imagination. And when our imagination gets shaped, it starts shaping our attitudes, and shaping our hearts, and shaping us in ways that maybe we ought not follow. It could, I'm not saying it does, but it could shape us in ways that bring us on the other side rather than drawing near to one another. Screens can sometimes be used as like a babysitter, in a sense. You got something you got to do, you got to get it done. Here's a screen, watch it, and so I can get things done. But what happens over time is that, screens can be a little addictive, and that if you take the screen away, then you notice that there are like withdrawals going on. And that just gets worse the more that happens. And so if you were to like make the sacrifice, take the risk, trust that it's going to work if you stick to it, that by limiting screen time, although it's going to be like really hard, this is probably like the hardest thing I'm suggesting, although it'd be like really hard, it's probably the best thing that you could do in the long run for your children. And here's a couple ways, just practically speaking. This could be like a, a rabbit hole? So I'm going to try to stay out of a rabbit hole. I'm going to flirt with the rabbit hole. So we can limit the time that screens are used, and we set limits, right? Don't cross the street, say thank you. We set limits all the time. This would be another limit. We only use screens at certain times and every day, so it's like a pattern. It's always like every day. And so it's a pattern of behavior that becomes normal. And the more it becomes normal, the less you get tested. But you're not going to come to a time where you're never tested, let's be honest. And then once you set those time limits, then fill the limits with things you want them to watch that may be more family oriented, more Christian oriented. And I'm not saying that you make them watch some religious streaming channel all the time, but there are things that are out there that promote ways of living, ways of being neighbor, that maybe can even be talked about. Setting limits and then filling that limit yourself. So one person sets limits this way. For himself, he sets limit of his own screen time to Wednesday night, where he watches some really cool series on Netflix with his wife for an hour or two. And then on Friday night, when it's screen time for family. Those are the only two times he uses the screen. So that means he can use other nights to do some other things. So like when the children go to bed, you can do time to read, do time to get ready for work, do time for whatever it is you need to do, but no screen. So, and you can do certain kind of limits for children as well. You can have one night where it's like family time, one night, or like one time where it's like cartoon time or something. And then you can choose the movies, or you can choose like the kinds of cartoons that they're supposed to be watching. those are just a couple of ideas. So, it looks like, our time is up, but before we go away, because they're all gonna have to get gathered, in the church for our final session, how does any of this set for you? Is there one of the things that I said that is like possibly doable? And would you be willing to do it, at least try it out for Lent? It might be, okay. Then, again, thank you for being moms and dads. Thank you for being here and paying attention to me. With attention spans so short these days, you really had a workout today, so I am quite grateful for your attention. And then you can go and join your families again.
Thank you.